On this episode of Locked On Angels, Carlos Estévez was traded for two top prospects from the Phillies. So are they good? Let's talk about it. The experts think so, and we're going to share some details and some stats. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts real fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com.
Happy Monday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
It's our third season here at Locked On Angels. We're lifelong fans of this team, talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, we're going to recap the highlights of the weekend against the A's, and specifically the highlights, because I know it was a one-win weekend, and I've got a pretty cool story to share as well. But first, let's talk about the trade of Carlos Estévez, Mike. He is going to the Phillies for two pitching prospects. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, those prospects are George Klassen and Samuel Aldegheri. And here's what the experts are saying, Johnny. Jeff Passan said, a quick reminder for a trade deadline. I love this. Public prospect rankings quite often are not updated during the season. So if you think Klassen and Aldegheri are not good because they were ranked in the 20s before the season, you don't know ball. They are both very good.
Yeah.
I love that response from Jeff Passan.
On that note, MLB Pipeline had them at 20, 25, and 28, I believe, but Baseball America has a more recent update, and they're 5-7, Mike. And Lance Brozdowski, somebody we reference on here all the time because he's so great with his baseball insight, especially with pitching. He said George Klassen and Samuel Aldegheri for Carlos Estévez. Wow.
Yeah.
was his response. Alden Gonzalez, hey, former beat writer for the Angels. Carlos Estévez is a tough loss for that Angels clubhouse, but oh my goodness, did they do well in that deal. What about Taylor Blake Ward? What did he have to say?
Yeah, he said Angels swing a pair of mid-level pitching prospects for Estevez. Klassen is a two-pitch upside power arm with relief projection, but solid returns from starter development. And Aldegheri has pitchability as a lefty with back-end rotation upside. And then I thought this was interesting. Matt Gelb of the Phillies, he's the beat writer for The Athletic for the Phillies. He said this package of prospects that the Angels got was good. They were having breakout seasons in the minor leagues. Now, Johnny, you mentioned Baseball America. Baseball America did do a write-up on both of those pitchers and did talk about how they have been moving up the ranks. Why don't you share a little bit about what they said about George Klassen?
Yeah, so he's a right-handed pitcher. He's 22 years old, and they said that when the Phillies drafted Klassen in the 6th round in 2023, they were taking a chance on an oft-injured pitcher with some control issues, but the arm was special enough to take a chance. That's proven to be a wise choice. Klassen tweaked his delivery and became one of the Phillies' best pitching prospects. He was highlighted in early July as one of the notable risers in the Phillies system. The number 26th ranked prospect before the season started, he climbed to number 5 in our most recent in-season re-rank. Klassen sits 96 to 98 with his fastball. He's touched 100 with plenty of arm side run. His hard slider and cutter give him 2 additional weapons. Klassen's control has been better than expected after the Phillies worked at cleaning up his arm path. Hey, I didn't know that arm path was a thing, Mike. So swing path and arm path. Coming out of college, he looked like a future reliever, but that risk seems less likely now, and he immediately became one of the best starting pitching prospects in the Angels system. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Samuel Aldegheri?
Yeah, he is a left-handed pitcher, Johnny, 22 years old. He's one of the better pitchers to come out of Europe in the last few years. He signed out of Verona, Italy in 2019, but he didn't pitch an official pitch in a game until 2021. He's been a slow mover until this season, which is understandable considering his background and not having any sort of major league access and experience, those types of things. He did open the year ranked number 14 in the Phillies system, and he earned a promotion to Double-A after a strong start with High A Jersey Shore. Johnny, he rose to number 7 in the system in that process. He's got a 4-pitch mix. His velocity isn't special, 91 to 93, but he can touch 95, 96. He gets plenty of carry that makes his fastball play up. He has a low 80s slider that can miss bats and a changeup that has a lot of tumble and fade, and he profiles as a back of the rotation starter, possibly a number 4 if it all comes together. Johnny, I heard a great analogy. Somebody said that looking at how he pitches kind of reminds them of Joe Saunders when Joe Saunders was the Angels, and he was somebody that didn't really look like somebody who was going to be excellent, but did come up and have a really good season with the Halos a few years ago.
Yeah, so Klassen, Mike, becomes the Angels' number 3 prospect per MLB Pipeline, and Aldegheri becomes the number 8 prospect per MLB Pipeline. So Aldegheri is going to Double-A Rocket City. Klassen's going to High A Tri-City. By the way, the Halos now own 5 former top prospects of the Phillies. Listen to this: Logan O'Hoppe, Mickey Moniak, Hans Krause, George Klassen, and Samuel Aldegheri. What are your thoughts, Michael, on this trade where we got rid of an expiring deal in Carlos Estévez and we're able to get 2 pitching prospects for a rental? Now, probably one of the best relievers available was Carlos Estévez, especially after Mason Miller broke his hand. And, you know, the A's, they didn't have to trade Miller either, so it's not a guarantee that that was going to happen. But what do you say? Did the Angels and Perry Minasian do well with this one?
Looking at all what the experts are saying, the scouts are saying, it really seems like the Angels did such a great job in this trade.
Here's what the whales are saying.
Here's what the whales are saying. Good old Brian Reagan. And I love when there's good affirmation of what the Halos have done, because often there's always question marks. There's a lot of like, I don't know. And what about this? And of course, the low ranking system always gets Angel fans all fired up, and they think that we don't have anybody good in the system. That's because they're all at the major league level, but we do have some really good players. And now they're restocking that. This is exactly what the Angels needed to do. And the market seemed to be really expensive for good relief pitching. And so when there was a trade that the Mariners made with the Blue Jays for
Yimi Garcia,
I was like, okay, well, that's an interesting trade. And then the Diamondbacks made a trade for, was it AJ Puck? I think is who they traded for.
From the
and
Marlins.
they gave away some really good prospects. And so there was a lot of discussion on, man, I wonder what the Angels could potentially get for Carlos Estévez, and we see that. So that's the first thought that I had, Johnny. The second thought is a terrible thought, and I'm trying to get it out of my head. But what would the Angels have gotten for Shohei if they decided to trade him last year, right? I'm glad they went for it. I'm glad that they tried to go for it. I know that it didn't turn out great. If they ended up making the playoffs, I think we'd have a different conversation about that. But, man, this was just, I think this is a haul. This is the definition of a haul for Perry Minasian, and trading away an expiring deal for Carlos Estévez.
Yeah, and there's more to come, obviously. It sounds like there's a lot of rumors around Rengifo, Tyler Anderson, Taylor Ward, all expected to maybe be moved by Tuesday. Now, Jim Bowden did report that Luis Garcia already had a deal in place, but then he closed the game on Sunday. So, yeah, Jim Bowden, go away. He never has anything nice to say about the Angels anyway. So, but listen, the fact that they were able to get 2 pitching prospects, top 10 prospects in the Philly system, and get them for an expiring deal of Carlos Estévez makes me really happy. I know that the concern is, well, they're going to come up and have 5 ERAs with the Angels, but I look at what has happened with the Angels over the last few years, especially this year. You think about the fact that, hey, Ben Joyce added that splinker, and now he's got above 15 innings of scoreless baseball, right? And 7 hits across that time. I think about Jose Soriano being converted into a starter. I know he didn't have a great day yesterday, but those are going to happen, and he's learning how to be a starter. I think about Caden Dana and the excitement around him, Barrett Kent. There's some good development happening in the system. I think that we are getting away from the Angels can't develop anybody. Who cares if they have good prospects? I think that we're getting away from that. I think that we're starting to see that, no, these guys can work on things and help make these guys better. And so I don't have any fears that these guys aren't going to translate to the Angels minor league. Do you?
No, not at all. And obviously we're going to have to see how this plays out over the next couple of years, but I don't have any fears of these guys developing. And I think that if they can get them to develop at the potential that they're at, or maybe 80% of their potential, John, this starting rotation in a couple of years could be slammed with really good arms in Barrett Kent, Caden Dana, and some of the guys that are in the minor leagues, plus the 2 guys that we traded for with Klassen and Aldegheri. And so I really like what the Angels did here. I'm hopeful that they can continue to make some trades, which means that this second half might be a bit ugly for the Halos, but It's already been ugly. And so, like we just got to get over that and stop getting mad about that, because it's going to get a bit uglier, especially if they do trade like a Renhefo and a Tyler Anderson. And we'll talk more about that on an upcoming show.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the Rockies at home on Tuesday, 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, Carlos Estévez spoke to the media after he was traded, and he said some really good things about the team, the fans, and maybe even a potential reunion for next year. We're going to talk about all of that coming right up.
Today's episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at Stitch Fix. It's time to upgrade your wardrobe. Throw out those old t-shirts and worn out pants and let our friends at Stitch Fix help you to look good. With Stitch Fix, it's easy to upgrade your style with the help of a professional stylist that helps you to find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. No more skinny jeans. Let your legs breathe. It's okay to do that now. Here's how it works. Just give a Stitch Fix stylist your size, your style, and your budget preference, and they're going to send you 5 just for you pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. You keep what works, and then you send back what you don't like. And the good news, shipping, returns, exchanges, it's all free. There's no subscription required. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy for you, which is so beautiful. I love Stitch Fix. No need to go shop and look around. Save time and effort and order from Stitch Fix. And if you get started right now at stitchfix.com/MLB, they're going to take $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB. Get $20 off. When you go there, you must redeem it within 7 days of sign up, and the offer doesn't include kid fixes. So you want to check that out as well. Stitch Fix, style that makes you feel as good as you look.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day and everydayers. After you're done with Locked On Angels, hop on over to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program just for you to bring you the biggest stories across the sports world. Keep up with all the trade news on Locked On Sports Today. Can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And speaking of your team every day, the Angels playing the Rockies Tuesday, 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM or the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels.
Lots of really good, positive conversation about Carlos Estévez as he was getting traded and talking with the media. He said some really great things about the people in the org, the players that he played with, even the reporters and fans. A lot of people hold him in high regard, and it was interesting just to hear what he had to say. So a couple things that he said on his way out. First, Carlos said on what he will remember about the Angels, he said, the fans. And I loved that he affirmed the fans. He talked about how they always show up, they're fired up, which is a whole other conversation, by the way, John, because these fans, these Angel fans, have shown up for this team this year.
Yeah.
In spite of Artie saying that we're going to contend and then not doing anything to contend, right? And creating all of these boundaries for Perry to work in. And so I love that the fans have shown up and have been fired up and been excited. He said he loves the fans. He'll remember the guys, even the media that has been really good to me, is what he said. He said, my teammates day in and day out always show up. Doesn't matter what's going on. They've always had our backs here. SD has shown a lot of love for a lot of players, but specifically, I loved the video where he was caught on tape telling Logan O'Hoppe, hey, call me anytime for anything. And that the only stupid question is the question that you don't ask. And so I loved that, Johnny. And my question to you is, do you think that there will be a cultural impact with Carlos Estévez now not on this team? Or does Zach Neto and Logan O'Hoppe and those guys, are they already in charge and in control of this culture?
I think him leaving leaves the door open for the young guys to really step up and fill that leadership void that Carlos is leaving behind. The thing is, Mike, is I don't think I realized how much of a leader Carlos had been to this team and how positive and just how he was able to reinforce what the guys are doing there. So
yeah,
really all of that kind of came to the surface in terms of watching that video of him talking to Logan O'Hoppe. I love that. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. I love that. He had some great things to say about his teammates, of course.
Right.
And I see that all the good things that people are saying about him, especially teammates, and even Wayne Randazzo said he's been a pleasure to be around the last 2 years. It just goes to show that you don't always see what is impacting these guys behind closed doors or in the dugout or in the locker room. And so to know that Carlos Estévez, obviously he was loved. I think you could see that in some of the fun videos that they would do, but man, to see him just have that like commanding presence and whatnot was really great to see. The other side of the coin is now that he's gone, I think that he did great to inspire the players. In fact, he even spoke to Ben Joyce and he said, I told him, right now, you don't need to change anything. You're nasty. You don't need to do anything else. Just throw strikes, attack the zone, make them hit the ball. You're going to be just fine. And so I thought that was really cool that he reinforced that with Ben Joyce.
Yeah. Talking about Ben Joyce being the closer, Ron Washington said on Sunday that Luis Garcia is going to step into that role and that Joyce would get a lot of reps if Garcia is dealt. And then we saw on Sunday that Luis Garcia came in and saved the only games they won this weekend. So, Johnny, do you think that Joyce is ready to close? I mean, the guy, we're going to share a stat next segment that's fantastic, but the guy's been really good. But is he ready to step into that ninth inning role? Or do you think that it's wise to hold back until they know what the bullpen will look like?
No, I think it's go time with Ben Joyce, especially when there's not going to be much to play for after Tuesday, right? You said it's going to be really hard to watch from here on out because a lot of the pieces that they're trading are the guys that are going to yield back good returns. So it's not to say that this team is going to be dreadful to watch. I mean, we still have all of our young guys, and Ben Joyce is part of that. He's part of what makes this team really exciting for the future. So give him the reps at closer. Mike, give him clean innings.
Yeah.
That's the key. He's got to come in a situation that's a safe situation, a clean ninth inning. Don't bring him in halfway through the eighth to get a 4-out save or something like that. Unless you want to try it out, right? Like if that's something you want to test him on, you can do that. But I think the success that comes with Ben Joyce is clean innings. And so I think, there's no reason not to give him a shot at the closer role. Now, you did mention something. I think you mentioned the word like exposure. That is something that you might want to think about when it comes to not showing your hand too early with Ben Joyce and giving everybody the scouting report that they can figure out what Joyce does well or what he doesn't do well and how to take advantage of that. So I think there's a fine line to walk of let's get this guy reps. But as far as him having the closer position, I think that it's all his at the end of the day.
Johnny, this trade of Carlos Estévez, I think moves to an A++ for the Angels. I think it's an A+, but I think it moves to an A++ if potentially Carlos comes back next year. And he hinted at that. He said, I talked to Wash, I talked to Perry, and they told me it's most likely a see you later, but this game, things happen. We'll see how it plays out. Would you want Carlos Estévez back with the Halos next year?
Yeah, it really depends on the deal. Obviously, I think he's going to get more than what the Angels initially paid for him per year. Also, Mike, is he close to 30 or is he in his 30s? I'm trying to remember
30,
how old.
I think he's 31.
31. Look, that next contract has to be his final contract in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like he's got to secure the bag somewhere, and maybe that's over the next 4 or 5, 6 years. I don't know if the Angels want to do that, considering they did that with Raisel Iglesias and then salary dumped him halfway through that first season. But to me, like, I kind of feel like Carlos Estévez's next move is his Raisel Iglesias deal, wherever he ends up, whether that's the Angels or not. Would I like to see him back? Oh, 100%. I think he has so much to offer this team. He has so much to offer in the way of leadership, but I don't know if it would be the most wise move, considering I think his next contract is going to be his best. Mike, he talked about going to the Phillies. He said, I'm glad that if I'm going to another place, it's a place where I can get a shot at a ring. It feels amazing. I'm excited. What do you say?
I'm going to root for the Phillies in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, they're Anaheim East, right? And so
right.
We've got Brandon Marsh over there. We've got Esty now, and I hope he does well. And if I'm going to root for a team in the playoffs, it's going to be them because they have a really fun and exciting team. And I do love how their general manager Dombrowski operates. I like what he does in making sure that this team is ready and stacked for the playoffs. And that's what a veteran GM does, right? They make sure that their veteran team that is in their window of winning the World Series goes and gets the right players.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I loved about the early to late 2000s, especially that season when the Halos traded Casey Kochman for Mark Teixeira.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that move, and it would have been even better if they could have re-signed him. And unfortunately, the Angels weren't able to make a run, but that team was so good, and having Mark Teixeira on that team was fantastic. And it was one of those situations, too, where your heart broke because Casey Kochman was leaving, but now, looking back, he really didn't have a great career. So it ended up being a pretty fantastic trade by the Halos.
And we got the Mike Trout compensation pick. So there you go. Mike, I'm really excited for Carlos Estévez. If there's anybody who deserves a chance to go somewhere and be part of a winning team, I think it's him. And you're right. There's every opportunity to bring him back at some point, depending on what the Angels want to do. But it will be exciting to see him in the playoffs and see how he handles those big moments. So yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm going to be rooting for Carlos Estévez all the way.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by SupplyHouse. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. You can find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple of clicks at SupplyHouse.com. They give you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies, and you get fast delivery anywhere in the United States. And if you need help with an order, you get industry-leading after-sales experience, direction, wisdom from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team. You get to talk to a real person every single time. And here's great news for plumbers and technicians and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. Trade industry professionals can now join the free Trade Master program with SupplyHouse. Free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the Trade Master program to deliver results. You can apply for membership right now at supplyhouse.com/TM. That's supplyhouse.com/TM, TM for Trade Master. And you can save time and money when you order online. Order plumbing and HVAC and electrical supplies from supplyhouse.com. Real people, Johnny, and real service.
Mike, it was a tough weekend against the A's. Surprise, surprise. The A's just are on a tear.
Hate the
this
A's.
July.
And the Drake.
And the Drake. Listen, it was a tough weekend, but we have a team of young players who are showing growth. They're showing that they're learning how to play. And so I think it's important to look for those growth moments. So if we could condense the weekend into this segment in terms of, what is positive? What can we take away? Because we all know that 3 losses in a row suck. We all know that.
Right.
And so I think it's important to go through and talk about the highlights. So let's start with Thursday's game when the Angels lost 6-5. Ben Joyce pitched 2/3 of an inning. He had a
2 innings. That was I put a period there and I should.
My bad.
Pitched
That's
2
right.
innings.
two innings. Mike, he had a clean first inning. He did struggle in the second inning of work. And with 1 out, he walked the second batter and gave up a single to the following batter. Then he hit the third batter to load the bases. But fortunately, Joyce settled down. He got J.J. Bleday to line out to first. And then he got the final batter, Abraham Toro, to ground out to first. So good to see him overcome some adversity that, again, he caused himself, but he got out of it. And that's what you want to see from somebody like that. The Angels bullpen went 5 2/3 scoreless in that game, despite the loss on Thursday.
And then on Friday, they did lose that game 5-4. They didn't get blown out in any of these games, which was good news, right? And
Sure.
we're looking for the good news here. So here's some of the highlights from that game, highlights of growth, specifically for Nolan Schanuel. In this game, he hit his 10th home run. It was a 2-run home run in the bottom of the first. Johnny, somebody told me that he can't hit with power. And so all of a sudden, he's proving everybody wrong. And then Carson Fulmer, third straight start, where he was pretty decent. 5 2/3, 2 hits, 3 earned, 3 walks, 3 Ks. He was in line for the win, but Hans Kraus actually came in and couldn't hold the lead, which was unusual for him. And then there was a learning moment, Johnny, that happened in the bottom of the 5th with Joe Adell and EY over at third base, our third base coach. Adell walked, and then Rendon doubled. Adell was on the move, was going to steal second on that pitch. And then when he got to second, he stopped because he wasn't sure where the ball was. Then he picks up where the ball is, starts running to third, and Eric Young sent him. The problem is that the ball was waiting for him at home plate, right? And it was closer than probably it should have been because Adell has some wheels. But by the time Adell was getting to third base, that ball was already on its way into the infield. And so it wasn't a great call. It would have been second and third with 1 out. And then Rengifo did hit a long fly ball to center field that would have been a sac fly.
Right.
But it ended up being the final out, and that was the difference. Joe Adell did say on that play, he said, we rest our head on being aggressive, and on that one, we were really, really aggressive. We tried to push it, and it wasn't the right scenario. Maybe I was sent, but it's mutual. We both want to be aggressive. I love the ownership that he took, but I think all of us, when he was rounding third, I think everybody watching the game was like, what are you doing?
Exactly. Mike, on Saturday, the Angels lost again 3-1. The highlight of this one was Nolan Schanuel hitting his 11th home run in the 3rd inning. He had 2 walks in this game as well. And the story of the game was Tyler Anderson. He had a great game outside of that 1st inning 3-run home run. 7 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 earned runs on the home run, 10 strikeouts on 101 pitches. Anderson did speak about the rumors of the trades and the deadline. He said, you owe it to your teammates to be here every day. I don't think I'll be going anywhere, but whether you stay or go every day that you're an Angel, you're an Angel. I really love the way he said that. Had a fun story. I got to meet up with Joaquin and Maggie Neto on Saturday night. And by virtue of that, there was an opportunity to meet some of the players and also find out that Mr. Adell, Joe Adell's dad, listens to the podcast, Mike. He's an everydayer. He came right up to me and said, hey, you're the guy from the podcast. And so I think I got a little bit nervous because I realized, Mike, that there are more people that listen to us than I think I realize sometimes, including...
introduce yourself as Mike?
My
name's Mike.
My name's Mike. No, but everybody was asking where you were. So just know that you were missed and you're very adored among our everydayers. But yes, I was walking through and met some everydayers, got some pictures. There's some great picture on Instagram, and then got to meet the Netos, and they were just so fantastic. Maggie and Joaquin are awesome, and they were here. They're going to be here throughout the week. So they're watching. And then Mr. Adell, Joe Adell's dad, said this is the first time they've been able to see him play at home at Angel Stadium. So that was really cool. But I was excited to meet him, but I think he was excited to meet me, Mike. And that was the funniest part of the whole situation.
Full disclosure, when John texted me and was telling me all of this stuff, I texted him back and I said, well, look at you, Cosmo. Yes. Because Cosmo Kramer always falls backwards into things like that. And
I definitely Kramered my way into
Cosmo that. Johnny. Hey, Johnny, on Sunday, the Angels finally got a victory. And I'm sure the Netos were happy and the Adells were happy. Angels won 8-6. John, they trailed 6-0 in this game and came all the way back. How about Nolan Schanuel walked and scored a run in this game? It's his 6th consecutive game doing that, which ties an Angel record with some guy named Shohei Ohtani. That's pretty awesome. He was also on base 5 different times. And then I love this from Angels PR. Schanuel at 22 years, 165 days, is the youngest Angel player to reach base 5+ times in a game since some other guy named Mike Trout did it 6 times in 2013 when he was 21 years old. Remember those days?
Remember when he was healthy?
Remember when he would play? And then, John, how about Taylor Ward, coming up and hitting a huge, huge grand slam in this game?
Yeah, absolutely. It turned there was a grand slam here, and it turned a 6-3 game into a 7-6 Angels lead, which was fantastic. It's the first Halos go-ahead grand slam when trailing by exactly 3 runs since Mike Trout took the lead September 17th, 2015 at Minnesota, and the first one at the Big A since Vladimir Guerrero did it on July 21st, 2005 versus the Yankees. So Ben Joyce hasn't allowed a run in 19 1/3 innings. He's allowed just 17 hits over that span.
Wow.
Luis Garcia came in to get the save. So yeah, it was a big day all around for the Angels. And I believe it was our friends at Foul Territory who posted the grand slam, and I retweeted that and said, "Hey, Taylor Ward can do this for your favorite team too." So hoping that there's some movement, some trade movement happening this in the next few days here. So we'll have all that coverage for you as soon as something happens. We'll do our best to get our instant reaction out there for you. So, Mike, what do you say if you had to take maybe let's do this: Ward, Rengifo, Tyler Anderson. Give me the 2 that are moving. What do you say?
Ward and Rengifo. I
Okay.
actually think they keep Tyler Anderson. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, but I think Ward and Rengifo are going to be the 2 guys that are more likely to be traded simply because they can bring some offense to another team. They have controllable years still, and this is peak Louis Rengifo, and I think the Angels capitalize on peak Louis Rengifo. What about you?
Yeah, there's a big need for him out there, so I think Rengifo for sure. And you know what? I'm going to go with it too. I'm going to say all 3 actually, because I think Tyler Anderson should move, and I think he will move. Taylor Ward, look, people love grand slams. So I know his last couple weeks haven't been great, but he's a streaky guy. So maybe he's getting on a hot streak, and it's right on time for the trade deadline for a contending team.
People love grand slams. That's a t-shirt. I like that. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your very first listen of the day. Remember, the Angels play the Rockies on Tuesday at 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with all the latest news. We're going to be posting on YouTube and on our social media, so make sure you keep up with us there. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show, find the episode, get in the comments section because we want to hear from you. We love interacting with you down there. Hey, Mike, what do we have on deck for Tuesday's show?
We're going to talk about Tyler Anderson. There's a lot of rumors surrounding him, and there's one particular rumor that hasn't been solidified, verified about Tyler Anderson and why he would stay. And so we're going to discuss that tomorrow, and then we're going to get into our feels and see how we feel as fans about why he would stay. That's all tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Cosmo.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
Hey, look, I said hi to Nolan Schanuel, and then I met Maggie Netto, and then I Zach Netto. Oh, I'm sitting behind Joe Adell.
And Logan O'Hoppy.
And look.